To talk a lot more about the meaning of this, I want to bring into the conversation here with us, friend to the show, Brian Sobel, political analyst. Brian, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I want to first start with the basics. President Trump and his wife, the First Lady, are headed there to Kerrville, Texas. Let's talk about the significance of a president showing up in a space that has endured a national disaster here in our country.
Absolutely, and good to see you, Christina. The importance of a president showing up at a disaster site is not to appear to be a looky-loo, but to be somebody who's there to be the comfort in chief rather than the commander in chief. And may I just take a second to say that my prayers and thoughts go out to all of those people in that region who have been so profoundly affected by the flood. But presidents do this, and it's an important thing, and it's more than symbology. Christina, he should be and will be talking with people on the ground there to see how the federal response can be further articulated.
And so, as it goes, we also know that this is not the president's first time visiting a disaster zone that's been impacted by flooding. Quite frankly, during his first week in office, the first weekend, he visited North Carolina, which had endured those devastating effects of Hurricane Helene and the other hurricanes late last year. As we're seeing them, this was the scene that happened a bit earlier today as they departed Washington, D.C. Again, they're alongside the First Lady. Is it customary that a First Lady would also attend on events like this as well?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, the First Lady will accompany the president, again, the comforter in chief, to meet with people on the ground who have been the victims of disasters, not just floods, but other things as well. So it's an American tradition that the American president and oftentimes the First Lady will travel to the site of a catastrophe, view it, speak with local officials, and provide some comfort.
And what else can we expect? We know that there's set to be a roundtable discussion as well. He's going to be meeting with the governor of Texas as well, who's been very outspoken about the effects of this flooding. What else can we sort of hear today?
Well, Governor Abbott, of course, and Donald Trump, President Trump, get along very, very well. I think they will delve into a bit of the controversy, if I may, around when people knew things and whether there could have been a more robust response on the federal level, state level, and local level. But a disaster is a disaster, and you cannot account for everything that goes on in one of these terrible situations. And that's why, as one of the local sheriffs said, an after-action report is so important. But I think today you'll hear the president talk about having to take a hard look at this disaster and what can be done in the future. But I say that with the backdrop that this goes on almost with every disaster, because it's the nature of a catastrophe that if you have everything in place, it may not stop it. And so maybe there are some things to learn, but I think that'll be the emphasis of the discussions.
And Brian, I have to ask you, President Trump has been very outspoken over the last few months as he's gone into this administration about what his goals are for certain relief efforts like FEMA. Do you feel like that will continue to be one of those topics that's asked by even reporters or others on the ground as the area is now looking to recover from these devastating effects?
Really good question. I think the issue of FEMA, cuts at FEMA, cuts in other parts of the government will certainly be a question reporters are going to be asking. No question about that. But I think the president will respond that just because people are employed doesn't necessarily mean they're all entirely effective certainly in a disaster. And so those questions will be asked today. But I think what the president is trying to say is the government is bloated. There are a lot of people in government that don't necessarily need to be there based on the jobs and the volume of work. If there can be cutbacks and it can be done safely and efficiently, I think that's what the president is supporting.
And lastly, before I let you go, Brian, as we're previewing there and still taking a live look there in Kirk County, ultimately, what does it say for a president's legacy when they show up in a moment like this? Can you draw on any historical knowledge where we've seen others stand there in the moment and really speak to those victims directly in these worst moments, in these times?
Absolutely. Well, we've seen presidents certainly show up after mass shootings, after school shootings, after earthquakes and tornadoes and flooding and all sorts of things. I think it speaks to the humanity of the president. Any president who goes to these sites, some may say sort of cynically, well, of course they go there. It's a great place to get a good photo op. I have never, in my many years of covering politics, thought for even a moment that any of these presidents who have gone to these terrible scenes, that they did it for a photo op. They did it because they felt compelled to go and see and talk with people on the ground, and again, provide some comfort and closure from the top person in the United States government. And so I always think they're doing the right thing when they go to these places where there were disasters, catastrophes, or other horrible things.
And it's just been heartbreaking to really hear from those local officials as
Yes.
well as those there who have been victims of this tragedy. Again, Brian Sobel, political analyst, here to really break down for us some of the intricacies and really what happens behind the scenes as a president shows up to some of these natural disaster sites. Of course, here on Live Now from Fox, we'll bring you all of those comments in that roundtable discussion in full when it happens. Brian, thanks so much for being with us.
You're very welcome.